Thanks, everyone. I'm Dave Demlow. I'm the Vice President of Product Management here at Scale. I've got just a couple of slides to get some high level, but then want to go into a demo and actually show you the product and kind of walk you through the customer experience for that mid-market, small IT customer that we're targeting. So, Jason already showed you this. Really what we're trying to do is let them not focus on anything, below the lines, below the workloads, and let them rely on us to handle the infrastructure for them, let them focus on their applications. So, basically what they're going to start with is a minimum of 3 nodes. 1U, fully integrated servers, storage included, software, everything they need. Basically what they're going to do is take those out of the box, rack them, cable them, redundant power. There's 2 networks that they connect them to. There's what we call a private backplane network that we use for all of our data replication to move data across the cluster, and then there's the public network connection that they give an IP address, and that's what they connect to for management, and that's what their VMs connect to. And those are, by the way, both redundant, so you can set up redundant switches for all the node-to-node traffic. So basically, they're going to power that up, and what I'm going to actually do is go right into what they would have here. Let me just skip out of here. And do you already have the Safari up?
Yeah, there's Chrome up.
Okay. All right, so let me full screen this here. What they're going to basically do is once they've, again, powered the nodes up, give them an IP address, all the nodes point to each other and create a cluster. From that point, it's all managed as a single unit. They can go to any web browser, point to any one of the nodes, they're going to get the same view. We've already got a bunch of workloads running here, but literally the very first thing they can do is come into this virtualization tab, click create, and create their first virtual machine. There's no concept of configuring the storage layer or going and provisioning an iSCSI target or LUN or creating an NFS share, partitioning or carving up storage. Every VM they have has access to the entire pool of storage across all the nodes. So we'll go ahead and, storage field day, demo. We'll go ahead and, as if we're going to install Windows 2012, this basically just sets up the right performance drivers, the para-virtualized high-performance drivers for that operating system. What type of resources does this workload need? We'll give this one 4 virtual cores. We'll give it 8 gigabytes of RAM out of the pool. What type of storage resources do I need? And by the way, these are all thin provisioned. For our boot volume, we're fine with 50 gig, and then we'll have a data volume of 100 gig. From that point, how do I want to install? Am I doing a kind of network boot, or if you have you can upload your ISO images, your virtual CD or DVD images through the browser, and then just select whatever one you want to install from here.
So how much storage on a per node basis? So you're sharing the 3 nodes of storage, right?
It depends on the particular node. Let me switch right over here while that's actually, actually let me go ahead and start this one up while we're talking here. Yeah, no, that's good. So this is the hardware view, which is kind of irrelevant, but this particular cluster, each of the nodes has 4 drives. We also have some nodes that have 8 drives now, but the typical format that we've sold with is 4 drives. These are 10K SAS, 900 gig drives, and again, they're all aggregated throughout the pool. But we have, there's 600 gig. We do still have some nodes with SATA drives that are aggregated together. We have nodes with 15K SAS, so a variety of storage capacity and performance depending on what the customer needs in terms of those factors.
Any flash or tiering? Or?
At this point, not. We haven't had a strong need for that in the SMB space because again, we're aggregating all the IOPS, all the performance of these disks together. We're definitely looking at that and how that fits into our market space, and have Phil will go into some of our storage layer and how it's already actually architected to incorporate different tiers, different performance into the system.
Okay, so we can wait to ask questions
sure.
about that.
Yeah.
All right.
And the VMs use block storage, or are they using file storage? I mean, is it like what kind of a data store is it? I mean,
Phil's going to go into that. It's an object store. I mean, there's not a file system on this. It's a block storage engine, basically. So from below the hypervisor level, they plug right into our storage layer that Phil's going to go into enormous detail about. So, but there's no intermediate, there's no protocols, there's no iSCSI or NFS, even within the box. We're not a virtual storage appliance. Basically, the hypervisor plugs right into our storage layer. We give it a bunch of blocks, and then we handle that all under the hood, storing that redundantly, distributing it, handling disk errors and things like that.
So Can you drive that through a GUI? Sorry, not through a command line, or rather than the GUI?
We have a command line on the server. It's not something we've exposed to our customers yet. Honestly, there hasn't been a need for it. They like this kind of set and forget, drive it, and virtually everything that they need to do, they're either going to get an email indicator saying, hey, a drive failed last night, call us tomorrow and replace the disk, or the state machines that are built in, really the automation, the orchestration layer is going to take care of it for them. So it's pretty much set up and forget, let your VMs run. If a node fails, a disk fails, we're going to take care of that automatically and let you know what you need to do.
If you wanted to provision a VM, could you do it through command line?
We don't expose that to the customer at this point. We can do that on the back end. It's probably something that we will do. All of our web-based interface has some standardized APIs, and we've actually, for a couple things already, done basically special command line utilities. For example, for UPS integration, we have a external command line that you can hook into your APC power chute to trigger controlled VM shutdown, can trigger, and safely shut down the cluster. We could do something similar to that as far as VM provisioning.
How are updates being handled of your software?
Updates, actually, that's a great question. So updates, one of the great things about hyperconvergence is the entire stack is updated in a single unit. It's all tested together. In this case, actually, down here, and if there's an update available, which in this case it is, it'll show you here. You can one click, it'll tell you what's available, and all of the upgrades are done in a rolling fashion. So as long as you have enough memory, and there's even a warning, we'll tell you that if you don't, as long as you have enough memory for us to live migrate the virtual machines around, we will node by node automatically do your complete upgrade, no downtime, no disruption. So that's built into the system as well.
Can you do rollback? Just in
Our
case?
support can. We don't expose that to the end user, but if there's an issue, that's something that we can do. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We had a question on Twitter about the Backplane Interconnect. What networks is that supported over?
For most of our nodes, we offer a choice of either 1 gig or 10 gig. On the higher end nodes, we're basically moving those all to 10 gig just because they have more drive, more I/O, and really the 1 gig can become a bottleneck in a larger cluster there. They can plug into a 1 gigabit network, but our backplane network on the larger nodes, we want a 10 gig connection.
What about the networking that actually plugs into?
That could be whatever. So and we have a number of customers already that have 10 gig because a lot of their traffic is east-west between the VMs and the cluster. So they need a lot of high network I/O there, but out to their desktops, out to their applications, they still are running 1 gig.
And like how many ports in each appliance?
So every node has 4 ports. 2 are basically redundantly bonded for the backplane traffic. 2 are redundantly bonded for the LAN. So in aggregate, you also are increasing the network throughput as you add nodes as well.
And what about the supported operating systems? How many?
We have a list of what we have to kind of different tiers of support. In reality, anything that runs on an x86 platform will run. We've had people run OS2 and things like that on it. But we support all the
people just will not give it up.
No,
But it was good.
They'll do virtualization, but they won't get off OS2.
It was good in 1984.
So
was the Mac.
yeah. So we have a list. I mean, we obviously support all the latest, Windows operating system, all the popular current Linux distributions, and that's 99% of the workloads out there. There's you always run into some lower tier operating systems that run, and we provide basically cluster support. So as long as our cluster is doing what is great, but we haven't tested older versions of FreeBSD or things like that. So it's really just a support stance at that point.
How is your IPv6 support?
Well, from our standpoint, all of our connectivity is using IPv4. As far as the VM traffic, it's independent of us. We just put it out on the wire, and we don't care. So.
Okay, is V6 for management on the roadmap?
We haven't had a lot of requests for it. There's probably some use cases that might cause us to use it, for example, on our backplane for things like node auto discovery, take advantage of some of those capabilities. But as far as users, we haven't had any demand to do that. There's some things that we might want to use it for, though.
Okay, thanks.
Great. All right. All right. So let's go back to here. So we had that VM creation. It's probably sitting there. One of the things we have built in, so again, everything is driven through the web browser. One of the things you may notice when I powered that on early, I didn't have to specify where it goes. We just automatically place the node, the virtual machine on one of the nodes. As a matter of fact, a lot of our customers will run with this collapsed because they don't even care where it's running. This is just kind of a convenient, visual tool. But let's go ahead here and launch our integrated console. So while we were sitting, it got up to the initial prompt. And at this point, we won't run through the whole install. It's normal Windows installation. The only thing that's different in our case is because we selected those performance drivers, we're not using a fully emulated disk. We're using a pair of virtualized disks. We'll get to the point where it says, hey, I don't find any disks. Are you using a RAID controller? And we actually automatically attach the we call our VirtIO drivers, so they're just right there. You point to them, and then it sees the virtual disk and the virtual network, and it's just straight Windows from that point on. If I can get to that quickly, I'll show you here. Yep.
Can you specify which appliance it goes to if you want to?
Which
appliance it goes to?
you can well, I'll show you the live migration, and when you do live migration, you can specifically target a particular node, and then we leave it alone there. But yeah, for the initial startup, we just automatically place it on the best node.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead here and pick our drivers. Oops, shift right there. And at this point, it's just standard window. And this virtual machine is already fully redundant. I didn't have to specify, how many copies I want or that I wanted it to fail over. Any bit of data, any virtual machine created on the system is inherently redundant. I can live migrate it right now, or so forth. So it sees the 2 virtual disks. I'm going to install on the 46 gig disk, and at that point, it's just letting Windows do its thing.
How are you handling redundancy? Is there like an exact replica somewhere, or
everything? And Phil's going to go into it in a lot of detail, but the simple view is we're distributing all the I/O up into 1 meg blocks. We're storing 2 copies on 2 different disks on 2 different nodes. So it's kind of like a network RAID 10. As a matter of fact, a lot of the customers we talk about, it's like, well, I'm worried about the storage overhead. It's like, well, I think I'm just going to put everything on a big server. It's like, well, you're probably going to do RAID 10 or at least maybe RAID 6 on that. What if for the same storage overhead, you could just put the second copy on a different node, and now you're protected against either a disk failure or a server failure? And so that's a lot of the mindset that our customers are coming from. All right, so one of the other very quick ways, so typically most of the customers are going to install Windows once, and it's not very exciting anyway. We also have things like templates. So I created a bunch of Windows templates here that I've already sysprepped, and if I want to create a copy of that, that's as easy as let's just clone it, and it takes the entire operating system, the configuration, and I can start that up. In this case, these are sysprepped. It'll ask me for a name, and I can quickly deploy virtual machines off of that. So we did the cloning. So let's kind of skip back on the management, because that's really the day-to-day thing. You're installing once, you're creating virtual machines occasionally, although our customers, like all, discover that once you are into virtualization, once you have a scale-out system, you've got this excess capacity, you create a lot more than what you expect. But really the day-to-day management is kind of the key things, and so we put a lot of effort on making that as simple as possible. So right up, when customers log in, and as I mentioned, we do have email notification that's designed to, if anything requires your attention, you're going to get an email that notifies you about it. But for some of the more subtle things, you can see here, the gas gauges. So very quickly, I see I've got full data redundancy. That tells me, there's not a disk in a degraded state or anything currently in transition. Everything's fully redundant. I've got failover capabilities, sufficient resources that I can fail over my virtual machines. There's enough RAM if one of the node fails or I need to do a rolling upgrade. I can see kind of current high-level gas gauge, and these are cluster-wide. What's my memory usage across the cluster, CPU, and storage? And those, as they approach critical thresholds that you need to either remove some stuff or add new nodes, those turn yellow to notify you. And then anything that requires attention. So for example here, I've got a minor case that is telling me every one of my nodes has an Ethernet link down. In this case, it's intentional. It's one of our labs. We didn't hook up the redundant port. So we're just, it's a demo system. So nothing's wrong. Everything's okay and online. But there's nothing really that we need to do there. So that's, again, and you can also get a history of kind of, what's gone on, VMs created and typical tasks. You can all see through here. We mentioned the data redundancy. We also have full server redundancy because of the data being distributed. We have built-in automatic failover. If one of the nodes goes down, we'll resume any of the VMs that we're running on it on remaining nodes. We do have built-in live migration. So for example, here I have just a demo VM that's just running a mission-critical application logging a timestamp. We certainly care about that and don't want that one to go down at all. So in this case, let's say, for example, I needed more capacity. I could simply add a node or a pair of nodes, power them up, give them a new IP address, they'll pop up, you know, as new nodes. And then currently we do, for new resources, we don't know if you're buying the node to create a bunch of new VMs or you want to move and rebalance existing workloads, but you can use the live migration capability, move it over. In this case, you do specify what node that it's on, and we'll keep it on that node unless there's a failure or things like that until that case. But it's your, you know, typical live migration. We'll go ahead and do the memory copy. There's, you know, no disruption. We'll see a little flash here just as we switch the connection monitoring over, but you know, typical live migration capability.
I see you moved the VM to a certain IP address. Can you also name the cluster nodes?
We don't have the ability to claim them, so to name them. Right now, yeah, you can see across the top the public IP address of the nodes. So yeah, that in some cases that's how you would refer to them. Maybe down the line we'll, you know, name them Node 1 or, you know, give them cute, clever names.
It's a small cluster, okay, but then again the IP addresses could be anywhere, and I might not know them. So.
Right. Yep, that's a great point.
How many IPs does a node require?
It's just the one. Well, it's two basically. One public IP and one private IP that you never see. Yeah.
Cool.
So.
You said if you had a failure, it would resume on another host. Does that mean a restart or?
Yeah, it's like VMware HA capability. We're not doing, you know, fault tolerant memory copy and anything at this point. And again, given our market, you know, their alternative is today. Oh, I've got an 8-year-old server and it crashes and I got to go fix it in the middle of the night. That's where they're coming from. And this is like awesome. It's like it's.
Look, it's 21st century technology.
Imagine that. All right, so you know, typical data services you expect, like snapshots. So you can take snapshots at a VM level. You can take snapshots of running VM. Kind of the methodology that we use to separate snapshots, which are kind of a historical copy of a VM, is if I want to use one of those, I would clone it. And so it's the same thing you could do with a live VM to create a clone. If I want to take this, you know, old VM here and make it writable, you know, actually boot it up and so I can start it, including all of its configuration, I would just clone it. At this point, we automatically name it, you know, restored from this clone, and it'll actually show up over here as, you know, that virtual machine. I can go in and boot that right now. And that's useful for things like, you know, if somebody was trying to do simple backup and recovery, you know, I deleted some stuff, but I have a snapshot of the VM. I can clone it, bring it up on an isolated VLAN, get, you know, whatever I need off of that very, very quickly and easily.
Okay, so do you have the equivalent of VMware tools to be the VSS provider?
We don't at this point. No, that's one of the things we'll be looking at down the line.
So they're crash consistent
snapshots at this point. If you are using, you know, in-guest snapshots, obviously anything that's sitting on those blocks will get part of the snapshot. But yeah, down the line, there actually is some early stuff in the open source community, a guest agent basically that will probably provide that snapshot, Quiesce snapshot capability for us.
Snapshot what you're using basically for backup, or are you going in with just like legacy kind of backup?
Yeah, customers have a number of different options for backup. A lot of them actually prefer to use exactly what they were using. I mean, that believe it or not, is honestly the good answer. It's like, you know, they'll ask, well, how do you back this up? Well, how are you backing your machines up today?
I use the backup exec I know and loathe.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's yeah, and so many cases that's fine. Okay, load agents, they're going to work fine, and we've obviously tested with all the popular backup applications. In some cases, it is using snapshots for local, you know, kind of operational recovery.
Is there any way to offload like the virus scanning and all the, you know, storms and things like that?
As far as like a vShield kind of thing, or what?
Something, yeah, or you know, I'm not sure what.
We haven't been asked that. I mean, there's probably things you could do if you wanted to, you know, use snapshots to, you know, I don't want to run snapshots on the production VM, so I'm going to mount a snapshot and do a, you know, boot it up and do a virus scan and then throw it away. There's probably some things like that. I haven't heard of people doing that.
I wouldn't go that way, because then when you find the virus,
yeah, then it's like, oh, shit.
Then what do you do? You know, it's kind of like, oh my God, I just found out.
How do the appliance handle virus scans? Because virus scans can be very, very intensive on VMs.
If you're doing proactive, yeah, I mean, and that's where, you know, just normal scheduling, you know, don't have all your virus scanners kick off at 3 a.m., you know, use real time where you can, use, you know, intrusion detection gateways, things like that. You know, we have the same issues that pretty much any infrastructure would have in terms of managing contention like that.
Are the snapshots schedulable?
In this release, they are not. In this release, you would take them, but that's definitely one of the things we're looking at adding down the line. One of the things that's not in this particular version is system-to-system replication. So we actually have we actually have a version of this product that does do full cluster-to-cluster continuous replication, but it's kind of more for offline backup. This product by year-end, this version of the product by year-end will have, just like you see snapshots, basically remote snapshots, where you can say, I want to any snapshots I'm taking here, any scheduled snapshots, I want to have them on the remote cluster as well, and it'll be, byte level, just differences. It'll actually be, if you're using them off of clones where there's a lot of shared blocks, they'll be basically deduped in terms of sending just the unique data across the network.
Because that's something that's important to me when I set up a small or medium-sized business with a solution like this, or a cluster or whatever. I usually set up a scheduled snapshot,
okay.
And keep a few layers of that. So when they call me and oh my God, we're all going to die. No, we've got, there's a few layers there that we might be able to go back into.
The snapshots are based on redirect on write?
They are allocate on write, and Phil will go into that very deeply. And it's the same infrastructure as clones and everything. Very, very efficient. So one of the things I mentioned on replication, so today we do partner with Vision Solutions with their double take availability product. So for customers who want cluster to cluster.
I'm shocked.
Imagine that. Yes. Yes, I'm the former CTO of Double Take, so we know this stuff very well. We also partner with them on migration. It's a great low downtime migration tool for customers who want to move physical workloads, virtual workloads onto the HC3 system. We offer the service to do it for them, and a lot of them want at least for us to do the first one and show them how easy it is. In many cases, they want us to do all of them.
Can you also expose a file system via NFS or SMB?
For like external consumption. In this release, not. We're kind of in between a couple releases. This is our 5.0 release, which is available on, when I go into the hardware, our newer HC4000 node. We also are shipping some products with our 4.0 software, which actually still does have, Jason went into a little bit, we started by first exposing the storage layer as a scale-out SAN or NAS. That product still has that capability, but we are phasing it out going forward. We're really emphasizing the full converged infrastructure, running the VMs natively on the system going forward. All right, so we covered the updates, and again, I mean, that's a really, really key thing for our customer base, the fact that they don't have to worry about, independently updating the virtualization, hypervisor itself, the management software, the, storage firmware, all of that, the client independently, one set of updates and it's handled non-disruptively. Another key thing for our space is this remote support button where, they can call us up with any issue. They can open basically an outward connection back to us. It's secure, encrypted. We can get in. We have full telemetry. We have full access to make changes for them, to do things that, maybe aren't exposed in the user interface. You want to clone 100 VMs, they can do that, and they will do that. So a lot of, again, the things we're trying to do is keep the product simple for the end user, which means sometimes we have to roll up our sleeves and do a little more than other companies would. And we're willing and happy to do that and do that very frequently.
I have a stupid question, actually, but if you have a very small amount of servers, 5, 10, and then you have a bunch of desktops, can you provide a similar VDI experience like?
Yeah, there are definitely ways to do it. I mean, we have, so first of all, we have a super high percentage of our customer run terminal services in some form. So whether it's Citrix, whether it's Microsoft, or remote desktop session host, and even if it's just, the occasional home worker that needs to remote in, I mean, that's an excellent workload for HC3. We do have, customers that run, 10, 20, 30 virtual machines, Windows 7, Windows 8 desktops in kind of a persistent mode. Here's Dave's VM, Dave's desktop. We've worked with some customers who have wanted to go the next step and introduce a connection broker and introduce some kind of pool desktops. It's out there, but to be honest, it's not a common thing in our market. So we haven't put a lot of emphasis on doing it today.
And when you start getting beyond 20 or 50, then you really need a flash story to go with it.
Well, yeah, you probably want non-persistent. You want some of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but below that level, I mean, we have, and I've worked with customers on, okay, here's how to set up your Windows 7 VM. Here's how to sysprep it. Here's how to, clone 50 of them so that they automatically boot and get a name and get an IP and you can start consuming them. But it's not a big thing. It's actually more something customers want to talk about, but when they look at some of the trade-offs, it's definitely not their primary use case. But all right, so that is all for the demo. Let me switch back, whoops, here. Hold on.
We don't care about marketing strategy.
I know. I don't.
Somebody writing about marketing strategy.
Where am I here? More?
This is what happens
other
when
way.
we use Macs.
Other way? There we go. All right. What were we talking about? Simplicity, like Macs. All right.
My feeling exactly.
All right, so again, the whole goal of this product was it was built for mid-size and even small companies. I mean, we do have companies using our product that have 0 IT guys, and it's the guy who, hey, I know how to install Windows, I can create a VM, and this is leaps and bounds better what they were using before they had us. Simplicity of a single server. You saw how easy it is to create a VM. They get the availability of that complex, 3-2-1 architecture. Some people call that the inverted pyramid of doom. You get, all that availability, and you get the scalability of clustered infrastructure. When they outgrow it, they can add nodes. And by the way, we have, different nodes. We have, nodes that provide just storage only. We have nodes that are compute heavy. They can add nodes with the resources that they need. It's not just, take the same thing you bought and scale it out. I'm going to skip over this because we pretty much talked about this, and Phil is going to go into this, super deep. But the idea is, as data is being written, it's on a virtual storage device, a virtual disk that gets distributed evenly and redundantly across all the disks and all the nodes in the cluster. That's what provides the resiliency. That's also what provides the performance. We actually have a system that. When you add a 4th and 5th node to a system like this, your existing VMs are going to go faster. They have more spindles to write to, and the data is going to get naturally distributed. You can actually make your existing workloads go faster.
Is this something you invented under the hood, or is this a
this is our storage technology, yeah. And as Phil will go into, this is just one of the algorithms. This is the way we lay the data out now. We have all sorts of flexibility down the line to do other things, and lay the data out and distribute it for different modes, different reasons, things like that. So the product family, again, we want to make this simple too, how to buy. So our HC3 entry-level system, this is the one that starts with 32 gig of RAM. It's a quad-core processor, 4 disks, a minimum 3-node configuration. That will run a good number of VMs for these companies. The next level up from that is our HC3X family. It's pretty much double the density. So it has hex-core processors. It has 64 gig of RAM. This uses all SAS disks, 10K or 15K SAS disks, so it's got that balanced performance increase as well. And then our new HC4000, which is in limited introduction right now. We've got a couple of customers that are going online with this. Doubles the density again. It actually goes to 8 SAS drives per chassis. It's still in a 1U configuration, 128 gig of RAM, dual socket hex cores. It's a pretty beefy box. Will do an awful lot even in a 3-node system. And then as you scale that out from there, you can get very high density.
So on the 400 VMs per cluster, is that?
Yeah, and this was using. We used pretty much everybody uses a standard 2.5 gig of RAM VM, 50 gigabytes of storage. So using simple VMs, but yeah, just some way to reflect this approximately double the density and scale.
KVM doesn't do memory overcommit, right?
It does under the hood. We currently don't expose that to the user. We don't let them get themselves write that check they can't cash today. So,
excuse me, but you are using Dell servers, right? So
we use a mix of servers. Yeah, most of our servers now are Dell.
Okay, so you are on an OEM agreement of some kind. Does it mean that I can have Dell hardware support all around the world?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know.
The problem with most of the super micro backend appliances is that I can get hardware support in countries like Italy.
Right.
Because
For instance.
Yeah.
Not like it's a third world
and I know that when Dell has this kind of agreements, you get support from the Dell guy locally.
Okay.
So it's much better.
Okay.
Also to sell the product, not only to buy the product.
All right. Yeah, Craig, I don't know. Did you want to comment on that, or if there's a handheld or?
I don't know if I need a microphone.
Yeah.
I don't. Here. Just to, while I'm waiting on the mic, just to reiterate, the question is basically support in like Italy and other places.
Can you leverage Dell hardware support?
You absolutely can. They charge for that, and in which case we'd have to pass that along to our customers. And so typically what we do, because most of the failures that we see in our system aren't necessarily like hair on fire, I better run to the cluster and change it out. Like if a drive fails or a node fails or something like that, we keep forward stocking locations in strategic places so that we can make sure we get something to them next day. Now we are monitoring that. I mean, if that
Rico
ever
wants his
changes.
garage to be one of those locations.
I would like.
Fair enough. Yep.
So Dave, can you go back and slide? I saw the HC4000, for instance, in an 8-cluster environment, it grows to 400 VMs. Is that how I'd read that?
Yeah.
So that would each one of those would be the max environment for that particular configuration. But you can mix and match those systems, those system nodes if you want.
Yep.
But if you had, like, for instance, 8-node HC3s, it could go up to 100 VMs.
Correct, right. And like we talked about on the scale, these are all based on kind of our 8-node rule of thumb.
Right.
You know, again, by year end, we'll increase that number, and it's mostly the support and committing to do the testing. There are some things we'll want to do in terms of restricting data location, things like that.
You see a lot of SMB mid-range needing 400 VM environments?
No. Again, these are kind of units, and when I said the 2.5 gig of RAM, we don't see too many 2.5 gig of RAM VMs either, but some, and so this is just kind of a way of scaling it. But if you're running Exchange, you're running database, you're running memory intensive, you're running a lot of desktops. We definitely see people in this mid-range that are running out of memory, that wanted more cores, wanted more RAM, and when they're starting off buying 6 of these, that's when we know it's time for us to introduce the next thing up, and we've seen a number of that. All right, so last thing we definitely want to emphasize, and this is as critical as the software and the hardware, the appliances is the services that we provide, particularly in our space. We mentioned our scale care support. The first year is included. It's 24/7 by 365. Immediate response, next business day delivery on parts. We get you taken care of. We offer a number of services from installation, which usually what it is all right, we're going to be on the phone with you and make sure do you know what your default gateway is? Do you can you physically put this thing on your network? Is your switch configured correctly? Do you know what a VLAN is? We'll help you out with all those things, and honestly, we'll configure the switch for you.
What's the ongoing support cost after the first year?
It averages about 20% of the purchase price.
Okay.
So, which is what a lot of people are paying just on software.
Yep.
And then the optional services, we'll do help you with migration. Either basically a quick start where we'll show you how to do a low downtime migration of one of your workloads onto the system, and then let you run off with it, or we'll actually do all of them. We also will set up if you want remote VM replication and failover, so you're going to have either 2 HC3 systems in different locations, or in some maybe it is a physical environment here, or heaven forbid, some other virtualization platform will also help you with that.
Is there some sort of scripted P2V something or other?
Well, the recommendation we have, and we actually sell the tool, is we call it HC3 Move, but it's the double take Move product. And so we've got step-by-step documentation on how to do it. Like I said, we encourage customers, if you haven't done one before, buy the quick start. It's we will basically walk you through the process, and with the Move software, it is so easy to do. I mean, it's replicates while you're still running here, gets everything all set up on the HC3 system, and it's really just a failover that you don't fail back from. It's and it's the whole system, the whole operating system, all your apps and everything, and it really is easy. And once people see it, it's like, oh, okay. It's a little scary if you've never done it, I guess, but yeah.
Have you considered selling the software just as a package rather than selling it with the hardware?
It always comes up. Quite honestly, the market that we're selling to wants one place to call, and they want it delivered as an appliance. They want to take it out of the box. They don't want to spend, their first day, installing ISOs, onto a server. And so at this point, the market has told us to keep that. There's some cases, we'd love to be able to have a software version that we could give to all you guys and say, try it, you'll like it, and maybe down the line we'll get driven to do something like that. But testing is
Well, yeah, it's always going to be an issue with all whatever components you put in the server, but then you've got to maintain HCL lists and all that sort of stuff to go with it. But
All right, and my last slide, just to kind of bring it all home. The reason we do all this is ultimately TCO. I mean, to use a marketing term, this costs less to run and manage. It's not all first-time virtualizers. It's not all people who don't know VMware. We have converted a lot of VMware customers who
costs less compared to what?
Well, in this case, to having his IT guys go and have to manage a SAN and manage a more complex environment, and troubleshoot complex interactions. Well, where's the problem? Is it in the SAN? Is it in the management software? Those kinds of things. I mean, this.
It's okay, Dave. You can say it.
What's that?
He asked the question. You can say it.
Oh, well, yeah, cost less than pretty much everything. I mean, cost less than certainly buying VMware licenses, integrating a SAN, going to VMware School if you need to do that.
What about cloud offerings, software as a service?
It's always going to depend. I mean, the typical, kind of the typical answer on cloud services is if it's something you're going to run at a constant load over a period of time, you can probably run it yourself cheaper. If it's something where you have variable demand, you have spikes that you don't want to own the infrastructure, you can't predict your demand, or you just don't have the resources, then maybe the cloud is going to be cheaper.
And you just had a good comment about, and this is what I see. Like I work with essentially an ISP in Wisconsin that serves a lot of people that are in backwaters of the internet and things like that. The cloud is not nearly as sexy when you've got a dial-up or a mediocre cable modem situation.
Yeah, if your office, if you're in a small office that's only connected with even bonded T1s or something, and they still do exist. There's still companies that don't have gigabit Ethernet unmetered out to the world. And if you're sharing a T1 with 40 people in your office or even 20, you're not going to have a really good time with cloud services.
Yeah, so that would need to get factored in to make it cost equivalent. And so
everyone's going to be a little different. And the other day we were talking about everyone needs to sort of own up to their own budgets and things like that. And figure it out. But you consider the cost of a license, a VMware license per socket or whatever. We're talking about 6 sockets of license here. That sort of thing. That's 20 grand over 3 years. That's
and that's about what you pay for the entire solution supported for a year.
And I actually have some really good customer examples of everything we're talking about. Prime one of these examples was a guy who does extruded aluminum manufacturing in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And he's got his MRP system, and so that's one of the questions I asked him. I'm like, hey, well, what do you think about going to the cloud? I'm like, why don't you just push this to the cloud? And he's like, I employ 200 people. I run a 24/7 manufacturing operation. My CNC machines talk to my MRP system, and I have a cable modem connection to the internet.
Yeah.
My internet connection is the least reliable piece of my IT infrastructure and would be the most expensive for where I'm located to actually change that around. He's like, there's no way in hell I'm going cloud.
Yep. Those guys build a little data closet somewhere. They've got a cable that runs out into the machine. It's super simple. This is a
It has to run, and he's got to run a 24/7 manufacturing operation on top of this. So it's got to be highly available, and it has to be on premise for him.
Premises.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, which is what I'm expecting. And one of the other issues with smaller shops like that is that they tend not to have the sophistication of doing IT-related costings. I mean, they know how to run their manufacturing. They know their costs backwards.
Absolutely.
But they may not necessarily know how to break it down for their IT costs. So how do you guys help those people make that kind of decision? I mean, you've got customer examples, but do you find yourself doing sort of consulting with them to?
Yeah, I mean that's part of the sales process, right? And that's pretty much why kind of our sales organization is architected the way it is. I mean, we've got our regional sales guys that will go out, and our regional SEs that go out, and we'll help them, basically understand the situation, help them understand basically what they're trying to accomplish. Once again, focusing on the apps that make their business make money, help those guys figure out how we can take and apply the solution to make it a good fit for them.
Great. Well, with that, again, so this I kind of wanted to give you a view from the customer perspective, their out-of-box experience, the experience with the product, and the rest of this. Honestly, we don't even have to get into this level that we're going to go to with our customers. It's so this is going to be an exciting opportunity to show everybody what all the cool technology that's under the hood that makes this all look so easy to the end user. So
do you have the ability to import VMs, like moving VMs away from the cluster?
We do, yeah. In this feature, we have the first pass at our import-export. So you basically can export a VM. It takes a snapshot. You point it to any CIF share. It can be a file server, NAS device. Has all the configuration information and the virtual disks there that you can then later import back in or import to another cluster. Down the line, we'll probably make that import a little more flexible. If it happens to be something that might start with a VMDK or something like that, might possibly be importable, things like that.
Do you have a specific, a P2V migration utility?
Well, the tool that we recommend is the HC3 Move product that we license from Vision, but we also have application notes. You know, a lot of our customers are in love with, maybe they know Acronis, and you know, so they can use the Acronis bare metal recovery, Acronis storage craft, backup exec, semantic system recovery. Some people, you know, occasionally we get people who want to use open source. So what's the
the Linux CLI utility.
There's a couple like that. Basically anything that can do full block by block backup. We can even help them with how do you inject the right device drivers into it and to make it importable. But we recommend, and once people see it, the HC3 Move product, it's so easy. The total downtime is usually 20 minutes. You basically shut down here, you boot up here, and everything's migrated and working just the way it was. And that's what we find is usually the best experience. All right, so I want to turn it over to Phil here.
And
squeeze by here.
Sorry, I missed something. The disaster recovery option, there is a remote replica or something?
In this product today, basically we would recommend HC3 availability. So basically inside the guest VM to VM replication with immediate failover. By year end we have a version of this where it'll be built in, kind of like the snapshots. It'll just be take any snapshots of this VM and store them remotely, including even the ability to have historical recovery. So not just the latest, greatest replica, but you need to go back and recover a snapshot from yesterday or the day before will be built in.
So directly to another cluster.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.